Hi, very good morning. I'm Dr. Janak Patel. Today I'm going to talk on what we call as ST equivalents and ST mimetics. This is a very useful chapter which will help you to differentiate some non-pathological condition we call as a non-ischemic condition from an ischemic condition and certain ischemic condition which we call STEMI equivalents, which can become life threatening. If you detect them early, you can subject them to early angioplasty or early angiography followed by angioplasty. So this becomes a very useful chapter. So just pay attention. Again, I don't have to repeat all this. You will see only what you look for. You will recognize only what you know. So to know something, you must remember and understand. So if you understand, you will remember. And if you remember, you will know the things and you will try to recognize. And when you can recognize, when you look for that. So this becomes a very useful thing. So try to pay attention and look at as many ECG as possible and listen to a person who is explaining you regarding those material. And more you see, more you listen, always you understand more, so you remember more. And if you remember more, you will look for that. So we'll be talking about STEMI equivalents and mimics. So what is equivalent? Equivalent means in an ECG, if you get an ECG changes or ECG pattern, which you cannot have a classical criteria of STEMI. We already told you ST elevation criteria, T wave criteria, Q wave criteria, and clinical criteria. If it is not fitting well, but they can end up with STEMI, we call all those conditions as STEMI equivalents. And this will include ST depression or T wave changes or ST elevation. We'll be showing you all those three aspects. So this we call as a STEMI equivalence. Now you can see here that this is classical STEMI. There is a tall T wave, early hyperacute T wave changes, followed by ST segment elevation, Q wave appearance, ST segment starts coming down, T wave inversion, then followed by a deep Q wave, ST coming down, T wave still persistent, ST isoelectric Q wave with T wave inversion, and completely healed means Q wave persists, ST segment isoelectric, T wave becomes upright. So this is classical and you can easily differentiate this from other conditions. So STEMI will become very easy to identify. So if you get this ST criteria, T wave criteria, Q wave criteria, if you take all those criteria together, you will be able to identify STEMI very easily. But there will be some condition where you will not be able to identify. So if there is an ST elevation in AVR, Whelan syndrome or Whelan sign, De Winter sign, if there is an LBB already or person develops a fresh LBB and he has got MI, in that case we use Sakurba's criteria. In case of a true post-oval MI, in RVMI, and if you get an upright T wave in V1, in all this condition, it will be difficult to diagnose, but if you remember all these criteria, you will be able to pick up. In some of the previous ECG lectures, I have already mentioned little bit regarding ST elevation. So if you come across ST elevation in AVR, along with that if there is an ST depression in multiple leads, it is suggestive of a left main coronary artery occlusion, LMC occlusion. So if you get this, it is in favor of LMC occlusion or even in a favor of what we call as a left anterior descending proximal segment occlusion. But suppose if you see there is an ST elevation in AVR as well as V1, but ST elevation in AVR is more than V1, Along with that, you might have an ST depression in multiple lead, but if you compare ST elevation in AVR and V1, and if it is more, it is 100% in favor of an LMC occlusion, and this will further end up with anterior wall or anteroseptal infarction. Now suppose if you get an ST elevation in AVR only, there is no much amount of ST depression, there is not much amount of changes in V1. It can be in a proximal LAD, triple vessel disease, or also in a LMC occlusion. So these are some of the conditions. And what type of an ST elevation? If ST elevation in AVR is more than 1 small square, or we call 1 millimeter, or if ST elevation in AVR is more than V1, and there is a widespread horizontal ST depression in majority of the lead, particularly lead 1, lead 2, V4, V5, V6, etc., you will say that this is definitely LMC occlusion or proximal LAD or triple vessel disease. Now here I will show you a good ECG where you can see there is an ST elevation here. It is more than 1 small square, better seen here. You can see here again better, almost 2 small square. Now if you see this ST elevation and see this ST elevation in V1. So ST elevation in AVR is more than V1 and this is more than 1. So this is straightforward. Plus even third criteria, that is there is an ST depression in lead 1, lead 2, AVL, almost we can say V3, V4, V5, V6. All criteria are fulfilled. It will be more in favor of LMCA or proximal LAD or triple vessel disease. You can see clearly. This is ST elevation, this is ST elevation, this is more than V1, AVR more than V1, this is more than 1, and ST depression in 1, 2, V3 to V6. All these criteria are fulfilled. So do keep it in mind. Yes. Clear? Now suppose if there is only ST elevation in V1 and there is a widespread depression, you can see in lead 1, lead 2, even in AVF, V3, V4, V5, V6, and there is also ST elevation here. This is definitely more. You can see this is 2 small square and it is more than V1. All three criteria are fulfilled. Same again. Clear? Right. Now, why this is very important? If there is an ST elevation in AVR and widespread ST depression, it is bad. Because if there is an elevation of more than 1 millimeter, almost there is a mortality up to 13.8, and if you see that if there is more than 3 millimeter, mortality increases up to 50%, and mortality in 70% without immediate PCI. So if you don't send them to PCI, the mortality can be almost as high as 70%. A medical treatment will include thrombolysis and followed by a PCI. You must send them to PCI as early as possible. And if he is sent to PCI, it may decrease the mortality to as much as 40%. So remarkable improvement. So always try to look for ST segment elevation in AVR and ST depression in other leads. And also compare with ST segment elevation in AVR with V1. Now we go to the second criteria, what we call is a Whelan syndrome or Whelan's criteria. If you get that, it is again in a critical proximal LAD stenosis, left anterior descending artery stenosis. If a person has got a history of chest pain, if person is having a chest pain with ECG which is normal, enzymes are normal, and there is a minimal elevation, or say we call borderline, troponin or CPK. No pathological precordial Q wave or loss of R wave. Usually this will be neglected, but if you see ST elevation in V1, V2 and V3, sorry, not in V1, V2 and V3, sometimes it is isoelectric or there is a minimal elevation. But if there is symmetrical inversion, or there is a deep T wave inversion, or there is a biphasic T wave, in V2, V3, or may extend even up to V3, V4, V5. If you get this T wave changes, there may be ST elevation or not, but good number of times there is an ST depression. And if there is a T wave inversion, or if there is a biphasic T wave, do consider Whelan syndrome, or we call Whelan sign, and that is suggestive of a critical proximal LAD stenosis. Now we'll show you some of those. Now see in this V2 and V3, and this is V2, V3, this is V2, V3, this is again V2, V3. If you look here, there is ST segment nearly isoelectric and there is a deep T wave inversion. Can you see this deep T wave inversion? So this is type 1. And if you see here, this is upstroke. So upright T wave followed by downstroke, down T wave. So biphasic. So if you get only T wave inversion, type 1. If you get biphasic T wave, it is type 2. T wave inversion is almost 75% of the cases, while 25% of the cases are biphasic. And further, if you extend, in V4 you can see now deep T wave inversion. V5 also deep T wave inversion, and here almost again somewhat like a biphasic, but more of T wave inversion. So this is suggestive of a proximal LAD occlusion. Type 1, this will be type 2, or you can call A or B. Here you can see in V2, V3, ST segment is nearly isoelectric and there is a deep T wave inversion. Here you can see this is biphasic. So this is type 2, this is type 1. So you can identify this if you keep it in mind and try to suspect. And you can prevent sudden cardiac death also in this group of people. Because earlier you diagnose, you can send them for angiography followed by a PCI, or we call intervention, we call angioplasty, and life can be saved. So do keep it in mind. Now there is a third, we call equivalent, we call De Winter sign, where there is an STT changes. What is that STT changes? It is suggestive again of proximal LAD occlusion. There is an upsloping of J point depression. So J point is depressed. From there is an upsloping with prominent T wave, persistent tall T wave, and that can extend right from V1 to V6, any. But by and large it is V2, V3, V4 in those particular leads. Now look at this. This is V3, V4. You can see that this is R, S. S is little widespread. Then there is an upsloping. And see, this is a tall T wave. Clearly. Tall T wave. This is called De Winter sign or De Winter syndrome. So there is an upsloping ST segment more than 1 millimeter at J point seen in V2 to V4. Hyperacute T wave. Ascending limb of the T wave commencing below the isoelectric baseline. So it is starting almost from here and it is extending like this. This is typical De Winter syndrome. Again you can see here. Now in lead 1 AVL there is an ST segment elevation. If you see here there is a clear cut ST segment elevation. Clear cut ST segment elevation. Now this particular person has ended up with this. This is classical anterior wall infarct, right from V1, V2, V3. You can call anteroseptal, almost anteroseptal, almost V5 up to. You can call even an extensive anterior wall. And there is a reciprocal changes in lid 2, lid 3, and AVF. There is an ST depression. And in AVR also you can see an ST depression. So this is anterior wall infarct, or you can call anterolateral septal infarct. Now you can see here there is no changes in lead 1 AVL, V4, V5, V6. There is no changes. Clear? But you look in V1, V2. Now there is J point here. So there is an ST depression. Almost J point is here. From there is an ST segment like this, and T wave is in continuity, and you can see there is a tall T wave. So this is upsloping ST segment with T wave segment, which is hyperacute. V1, V2, V3. V2 and V3 is more prominent. In V2 there is a slight. In V1, this is classical De Winter sign, or we call De Winter syndrome. Person has to be catheterized, angiography must be done, and he should be sent to angioplasty. Now we are talking about Segorba's criteria, what we call in presence of left bundle branch block. If person has got left bundle branch block already in prior ECG, or he has got a fresh left bundle branch block, and if he comes with an acute chest pain, usually you can identify on presence of an acute MI by one, clinical history, unstable hemodynamics, biomarkers, echo. This can help you. In echo you will get regional wall abnormalities, and if in ECG, if you see Segorba's criteria positive, that will be in favor of acute MI in presence of left bundle branch block. We have already taken a full lecture on this, so I am not going to do in detail, but we'll just bypass. So ST elevation in V5, V6 will give 5 points, and if that elevation is more than 1 millimeter, it is 5 points. If there is an ST elevation in V1, V2, it is 2 points, and if there is an ST depression more than 1 millimeter, there are 3 points. If it is 2 or more than 2, it is in favor of acute MI in presence of left bundle branch block. You may see V1, V2 for ST elevation or ST depression, and ST elevation has to be more than 5 millimeter. Here ST depression has to be more than 1 millimeter. It has to be an ST depression. Sorry, here this is printed as ST elevation. So it should be ST depression. And if there is an ST elevation in V5, V6, it is 5 points. So pay attention to this. This is V5, V6, 5 points. You can see ST elevation more than 1 small square. While here, ST depression more than 1 small square, 3 points. ST elevation more than 5, 2 points. And this will be in V1, V2, V3. And this will be in V5, V6. This is new left bundle branch block if it is present. Excessive discordance with left bundle branch block, look for Segorba's criteria. Now we go to another thing to diagnose. Normally we take V1 to V6. We never take V7, V8, V9. So in 12 lead ECGs, if you look at the ECG and if you get tall R wave in V1, V2, V3, and R wave is more than S wave, R wave amplitude is more than S wave, so ratio is more than 1, do suspect posterior wall MI, do suspect RVH, and also in case of what we call as right ventricular infarct. In that case is also you can have an R wave prominent in V1. Now if you, along with that, if you get an ST depression in V1, V2, in case of an RVMI, in V1 and V2 you might have an ST elevation. In V1 you can have an ST depression, ST elevation, sorry, and in V2 if you get an ST depression, again in favor of an RVMI. But if you come across a narrow QRS complex with ST downsloping and T wave inversion, it will be more in favor of RVH with strain pattern. And if R wave is more than 7 small square, it is definitely in favor of RVH. Now as far as a posterior wall MI is concerned, if you get R wave in V1, V2, which is more prominent, and R wave more than S wave, and if there is an ST depression, and there is an upright T wave, so T wave is going up like this, upright, not inverted, these three criteria fulfill, it will be in favor of a true posterior wall MI. Now to confirm that, you will have to take V7, V8, V9. And if there is an ST elevation in V7, V8 and V9, it is 100% confirmatory of posterior wall MI. Or sometimes they use the word true posterior wall MI. Now along with this, if you get an ST elevation in lid 2, lid 3 and AVF, it is sometimes we utilize the term inferior posterior wall also. So if there is an ST elevation in lid 2, lid 3 and AVF, always suspect and try to rule out posterior wall MI. And for posterior wall MI, these are the four criteria. This is, we repeat the ECG, we call 15 lead ECG, 12 standard, 6 limb leads, 6 chest leads plus V7, V8, V9. If you take that, you will be able to diagnose a posterior wall MI. This is V7, V8, V9. V7 is posterior axillary line in the same horizontal level, that is L5 space. V8 is just below the scapula, we call infrascapular, and V9 is between scapula and vertebra, posterior spinous process. So we call in between these two. So if you take these three, so here you can see that this is V8, V9, then an ST elevation, and if you see in V2 and V3, there is an ST depression with upright T wave, and there is an R wave which is tall. You can see that R wave is prominent. So R wave is taller. Usually we don't see R wave in V1 and V2 so prominent. But if you see this, it will be in favor of a posterior wall MI. Now you can see here ST depression with upright T wave, and in opposite leads we call V7, V8, V9. So if you get Q wave with ST elevation, it is 100%. This is a mirror image. You put a mirror here and you see the image. So this will correspond to Q wave, this will correspond to the R wave, and this will correspond to the ST segment elevation. So if you get that, this will be here, this will be here, and this will be here. So V3 will correspond to V7, V2 will correspond to V8, and V1 will correspond to V9. This is how you try to look at it. What is isolated posterior wall? Means there is no involvement of inferior wall. You can see L2, L3 AVF, no ST elevation. But in V2, V3, there is an ST depression with upright T wave. And now in this person, if you take a V7, V8, V9, you will have an ST elevation. But if you get an ST elevation in lid 2, lid 3 and AVF, plus you get an ST depression in V2, V3 with T wave upright, always suspect true posterior wall MI. There is an posterior wall MI along with inferior wall. You can call inferior posterior, that word can be utilized. So acute true posterior wall, you can see an R wave is prominent here, ST segment depression with T wave upright. So this is in favor of true posterior wall MI. You can use the term true posterior wall MI or only posterior wall MI, whatever you want to use, doesn't matter. Now we go to another criteria, what we call as RVMI. What is RVMI? Whenever you get a right coronary artery involvement, you can have a right ventricular infarct. In a right ventricular infarct, you get the changes in V1 and V2. So if you see a 12 lead ECG, which is standard lead ECG, what we have taken, 6 limb leads, 6 chest leads. So this is corresponding to right side leads. So you get changes either in V1 and V2, or you get only in V1, and in V2 you got an ST depression. What you get in V1? You get an ST elevation. Normally in V1 there is a small R wave, deep S wave, and there is a slight ST segment elevation with upsloping. This is maybe seen. But if you get a classical ST elevation in V1 and there is no change in V2, V3, V4, or there is an ST depression in V2. Always have V4R, V5R, V6R. At least take these three on right side. And if in V4R you get a very nice ST elevation with T wave inversion, it is almost 90% specific. So if you get an ST elevation in lead 2, lead 3 and AVF, and there is what we call as in V1, you get an ST elevation, always suspect RVMI. So ST elevation in V3, V4, V5R. This is when you take a lead after looking at the standard ECG. And almost if you get in V4R, V5R, V6R, or even in V7R, it is 100% specific. But if you get lead 2, lead 3 AVF, ST segment elevation with ST elevation in V1, and there is an ST depression in V2, V3, this is giving you a clue. Almost in 50% of the patient, there will be RVMI. And if there is a lead 3 ST segment elevation is more than, S3 is more than 2. So if ST elevation in 3 is more than 2, and if you see ST elevation in AVF, suspect RVMI and have these leads. In inferior wall MI, if there is an ST elevation, so if you got this and you have got an ST elevation, V1 is more than V2, suspect RVMI. Or you have got only ST changes in V1 and ST depression in V2, V3, also suspect RVMI. So if you look here, this is V1, V2. Now when you take a right side, this becomes V1, this becomes V2, this is V3R, V4R, V5R. Is it clear? 3, 4, 5, sorry. This is 3, 4, 5 and 6. So try to take V4R, V5R and V6R. This 3 will show you much better changes, and you will have an elevation in, this is ideally a V1 lead, now becomes V2R. So that may show you changes. So can you see this inferior wall? And along with inferior wall, you have got a reciprocal changes in lead 1 and AVF. While in, look in V1, this is ideally now V2, and this is V1R. So this V2 becomes V1R. V2R was V1. So there is either a ST elevation, and V3R will definitely show you ST elevation. This is V4R. This is V4, V5, V6, and this is V3R. So this is clear cut. And now if you look in a V1 in this leads, this is another person. In V1 you got an ST elevation, V2 you got an ST elevation. Now this particular person now develops ST changes, and there is an V4R, V5. So V4R shows you a base changes. So try to look for a V4R to rule out RVMI. Again you can see here inferior wall plus reciprocal changes in lead 1 AVL, and if you look in V1, this is AVR, sorry, this is AVR, this is AVL, and now if you look in V4R, ST elevation, V5, V6R, ST elevation. This is again a classical RVMI. Very clear cut. So again, this is right side chest lead. So if you see, this is V1, V2, V3. So in V1, there's an ST flattening. Can you see? And V3, there's a slight ST curve up. But this is V4R, V3R, V4, V5, V6R. You can see clear cut ST elevation. Whenever you see this, always suspect RVMI. So you get changes in V1, V2 and look for V4, V5, V6R to rule out RVMI. Now again you can see here V2 mark ST segment elevation. Now this person has now developed a full blown anterior wall infarct. Same person, the previous one. Now he has developed a full blown changes V2, V3, V4, V5, V6. So if you diagnose early, if you pick up this early, you will have diagnosis of RVMI. But if you get the changes in V1, V2 like ST segment elevation like this is anterior wall MI, anterior wall MI, not RVMI. If this is V4, V5, V6 on the right side, then this is in favor of a RVMI. Now there is one more criteria, that is in V1 only. If you see a T wave upright, which is usually not upright. So if you see an upright T wave in V1, always consider it is an abnormal finding. And if it is a very tall T wave in V1, and that T wave in V1 is more taller than even V6, or there is a new upright T wave in V1, always suspect that this is a abnormal finding. And this particular is very commonly in a LAD, proximal LAD, or left main coronary artery occlusion. In that condition, you can have a tall T wave or upright T wave in V1, which is abnormal. So, upright T wave in V1, very classical in critical proximal stenosis, LAD, LMCA, LCX, or RCA. But these two comes first, then left circumflex and right circumflex artery. Once in a while, you can also come across in left bundle branch block and LVH. But one another common finding, which is an absolutely non-pathological, if you have placed incorrect lead placements, meaning that if V6 and V1 are interchanged, then you can have this particular changes. So always try to see that there is no lead interchange. Now if there is an isolated ST depression in only AVL, always keep it in mind, it can be inferior wall infarct, because this particular change is a characteristic of a reciprocal changes of inferior wall. It may be only isolated ST depression in AVL, suspect inferior wall STEMI, and that is one of the things which helps you to keep in mind, and you can identify inferior wall infarct by doing echo or by unstable hemodynamics, regional wall abnormalities, as well as biomarkers. You can utilize those. So this is hyperacute T wave. You can see there is an hyperacute T wave here. You can see here there is an hyperacute T wave in V4, V2, V3, V5, those particular leads. Can you see this hyperacute T wave? And you see in a AVL, there is a sharp T wave inversion. Sharp T wave inversion. And there is a terminal R wave. These are pathological. And always keep it in mind, it can be what we call as a pathological Q wave or a pathological T wave, which is suggestive of ischemic heart disease. To rule out from hyperkalemia, always keep it in mind that in hyperkalemia, this is a peak T wave, this is tented T wave. So if the base is short, it is peak, suspect hyperkalemia, and in hyperkalemia, QRS complex will become wider, PR interval will be prolonged, P wave may be absent, and sometimes even you get a very wide QRS and T wave is merged inside, we call it a sine wave, and this is characteristic of a hyperkalemia. So do keep it in mind. So whenever you see this hyperacute T wave, this is more in favor of ischemic heart disease, and as this is seen in V2, V3, V4, this is anterior wall. This is anterior wall, and it is extending right up to V5, V6. So this is anterolateral, and previous one is also anterolateral. There is no changes. Here there is slight T wave. There's an ST depression. There's a left axis deviation. Inferior wall infarct. I'm not convinced regarding inferior wall infarct. This is more of an anterior wall. This is more of an anterior wall. V2, V3, V4, V5, almost V5. Even in V6 also there is a tall T wave. So this is in favor of an anterior wall infarct. Anterior wall infarct. So do keep it in mind. So there are many conditions where you can get a ST elevation. All these conditions can have an ST elevation. So this we call as mimics. You can see that pericarditis is non-ischemic, benign repolarization is non-ischemic, left ventricular hypertrophy, left bundle branch block, left anterior hemi blocks, cardiac pacing, Brugada syndrome, hyperkalemia, hypothermia, CNS pathophysiology. These are all non-ischemic. Prince metal angina and Segorba's criteria is ischemic. These two are only ischemic while all other will mimics like an MI. So these are called mimics. So do keep it in mind. There can be an ST elevation, but it may be absolutely no ischemic heart disease. So we will just go through that. If you look at this ECG, you can see here in V1 there is QS with slight ST segment elevation, and here in V3 there is a nice ST segment elevation, but this is concave, not convex. This is good number of time mistaken as what we can call as STEMI. Similar way here, if you look in all this, this will be misdiagnosed, this will be also misdiagnosed. These are all with ST segment elevation. This way may be misdiagnosed as STEMI. We'll be going through one by one. So this is pure LVH. We'll show you that how you diagnose the LVH criteria. Then LBBB. Then you got this is in favor of a pericarditis. Then this is what we call as hyperkalemia. This is ventricular aneurysm. Then this is what we call as an MI, but old MI. Then last one is Brugada. So whenever you get such ST elevation, see here there is an ST elevation. This is also ST elevation. This is also ST elevation, J point elevation here. This is ST elevation. But see here, this is old infarct given rise to an aneurysm. You got an ST elevation, so you got a deep Q wave. ST elevation, T wave is still inverted. But this is not acute. Here you can see that there is an ST elevation. This is a code up and T wave inversion. This you see only in V1, V2 or maximum V3. This is Brugada. If you see like this is a J point elevation with a wave like this. This is Osborne wave in hypothermia. Here if you see that this is J point elevation and there is a small hook like appearance. This is called notch. And there is a concave ST elevation. This is benign early repolarization. And if you see an ST elevation, there is no notch and it is concave. And in multiple lids, this is pericarditis. This is this in chest lids. This will be in a chest lids. If you see an ST elevation with concavity, this is benign early repolarization. And in V1, if you see a small R wave, deep S wave, and there is an ST elevation with concavity, it is left bundle branch block. And you can say this is broad. Hello. हाँ बोल. हाँ 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 ત્યાં આવીને બતાડી જજે. हाँ हाँ चल. So these are all the different STT changes which suggest maybe STEMI, maybe non-STEMI. So these are all non-STEMI. Few can differentiate these conditions. You will not subject them to a treatment of STEMI. Good number of times these are mistaken for STEMI and they are treated as STEMI and you get a complication of treatment which they don't require. So try to identify all these conditions. I've already mentioned some of the findings. So if you try to identify this, you will be able to pick up all those conditions. So always have a look. That's why we call money lids. Look at lid 2, look at lid V1 and V1, V2, V3. If you look at lid 2, it is the best lid to identify a QT interval. You can identify a short QT syndrome or a long QT syndrome. And if you look at the V2 or you look at V1, V2, V3, all these three leads together, but V2 is more important. You can identify Brugada, you can identify ARVD, you can identify a long QT syndrome, etc. So by looking at all these leads, if there is a T wave inversion, it is in favor of Brugada and ARVD. If there is an ST elevation with T wave inversion, it is in favor of Brugada. If there is a T wave notching, it is in favor of a long QT syndromes. If there is an epsilon wave at the end of the S, it is more in favor of ARVD. And if QR is prolonged more than 11.11 milliseconds, it is ARVD. So all this 11 milliseconds, that is QRS, more than 3 small square we can call, in favor of an ARVD. So if you keep an attention on lead 2 and V1, V2, V3, you can pick up this some of this condition, and in which Brugada is non-ischemic, ARVD is non-ischemic, QT syndromes are also non-ischemic, but these are life-threatening condition, or sometimes we call they are the leads which can end up with VTVF and person can have a sudden cardiac death. So look at lead 2, AVF, lead 3 and V3 to V6. You can identify early repolarization syndrome, or we call it a BER, benign early repolarization. Try to have a look at this. By and large, you get the changes in V3 to V6. Once in a while, you can have similar changes, that is J point elevation with notching at the J point in lead 2, lead 3 and AVF. So that will suggest early repolarization syndrome. And if you get the global changes, it is in favor of a pericarditis or Takotsubo. And if you get an epsilon wave in a V1, V2, V3, it is ARVD. So look at the J point elevation. J point elevation can be in early repolarization, acute pericarditis, Osborne wave in hypothermia, Brugada syndrome, and sometimes also you can have a J point elevation in hypercalcemia. Osborne wave is also described as a camel hump sign because it looks like camel hump. That's why. So this is normal. You can see V1. And look here, this is a J point elevation, but there is a concavity. And whenever you see this concavity, usually it is a benign. But sometimes it can be pathological as in stent, but it is not very common. So if you get an ST elevation more than 2 millimeter, that is J point elevation, it is concave and there is a notching or there is a slurring in terminal QRS, we call that as benign early repolarization. And conchoidal T wave is upright and it is T wave which is taller, and usually this you will see in chest leads and sometimes in inferior leads. Usually this is benign. You can see here small notch or there is a slight slurring. This is typical benign early, and this is called smiley shape. So this is a J point elevation, notching, or there may be slurring. This will be in a benign early repolarization. You can see concavity. You can see a J point elevation with notch. It is also called the fish hook notch. You can see clearly here, very clear. So commonly seen in a chest leads. So easy to diagnose, but if you keep in mind and look for that. Again, can you see this J point elevation with concavity, while this is convex, and if you get convex, it is stem. Concavity, again J point elevation with notch. Now if you see here, there is a notch and T wave inversion. So once in a while you can have a T wave inversion in some of the leads. Again, it is a normal variant of early repolarization. Early repolarization syndrome we call normal variant. Now we go to another lead. We call LVH versus AMI. What is LVH versus AMI? Now if you look in LVH, I'll just skip this particular and so we can discuss that. In LVH, in V5, V6 you will get an ST downsloping with T wave inversion. This is called strain pattern. Asymmetrical T wave inversion. Asymmetrical. Look in lead 1. Look in lead AVL also. Very, very typical. Very, very typical. Right? But if you see in V1, where is V1? Lead 2, lead 3. Yes, this is V1. And then this is V2, V3, V4. Now, right from V4, V5, you can see ST downsloping with T wave inversion and it is asymmetrical. Clear? And if you look in that particular leads, this ST segment is concave. This is not STEMI. So always try to remember that in a lead, if you draw a line from a J point till tip of the T wave, and if it is concave, it is non-STEMI. Now we go to the second, that is left bundle branch block. It is very easy. In a left bundle branch block, if you look in a lead V1, there will be ST segment elevation with concavity. While in V4, V5, V6 or mainly in V5, V6, we will have a broad QRS complex with downsloping ST segment with T wave inversion. Whenever you see this, it is clear cut of left bundle branch block. While in case of an anterior wall infarct, what you will see is ST segment elevation in V5, V6. You can see this ST segment elevation. And in V2, V1, V2, V3, you will have an ST segment elevation with almost nearly R wave gone. So we call nearly QS or small R with a deep S wave and ST segment elevation which will be almost tombstone appearance. And this is more than 5 small square. So this is very characteristic. So do rule out anterior wall from left bundle branch block or don't misdiagnose this as an anterior wall infarct. This I have already discussed before, so I will skip over. Segorbasa's criteria we already done before, so I am skipping over. These are additional criteria which also can help you to rule out acute MI from left bundle branch block. You can go at your leisure time. This is, you can see that this is left bundle branch block and in this there is an ST elevation, and if there is an ST elevation in V1, V2 more than 5 small square, or there is an ST elevation in V5, V6 more than 1 millimeter, or if there is an ST depression in V1, V2, V3 more than 1 millimeter, these are the criteria in Segorba's criteria. So try to look at those criteria. So I am skipping over this particular. Now we go to another variety, what we call as a pericarditis. Now pericarditis can occur at any age. There will be usually history of fever. You will have a sinus tachycardia. On auscultation in cardiovascular system, you will get a frictional rub. On echo, you will demonstrate pericardial effusion. Person might have a persistent chest pain and does not have typical evolution of STT changes in ECG. That will be very characteristic. And biomarkers may be sometime elevated because of myocarditis. So this may be misdiagnosed. But there is typical STT changes which we will be discussing. So what are those STT changes? STT changes are usually concave. While in case of an MI, it is convex or flat, or it is oblique. ST elevation in pericarditis is in a multiple leads. While in acute MI, it is territorial, means it will be in L2, L3, AVF, lead 1, AVL, V5, V6, V1, V2, V3, V4, V5, V6, So we call consecutive leads or contiguous leads. In AVR, you can have a PR depression, which is more in favor of a pericarditis. You will have Q wave appearance in case of an MI, but not in case of a pericarditis. You will have T wave inversion in pericarditis, which occurs only after ST segment becomes normal. So T wave inversion is usually after the ST segment becomes normal. While in a case of a STEMI, T wave inversion is along with a ST elevation. So these are some of the criteria which will be helping you to differentiate MI from pericarditis. Go through those at your convenient time. Now you can see here there is a J point elevation and there is a concave ST segment with T wave upright. And this will be present in many leads. You can see in lead 2, lead 3, then V3, V5, V6 in multiple leads, even in lead 1. All this shows you a ST segment elevation with concavity upwards. This is concavity upwards. So whenever you see this in multiple leads, along with that, if you see all these criteria, all this, and try to look for all these criteria, you will be able to differentiate pericarditis from STEMI. I'll show you in another. Again, you can see very clearly this is a J point elevation. If you draw the line from J point till the top of T wave, this is concave, present in multiple leads. PR segment elevation or depression in AVR, T wave flattening or inversion, and if there is an atrial arrhythmias like supraventricular tachycardias, and once there is a pericardial effusion or constrictive pericarditis, or there is a cardiac tamponade, it will be a low voltage and electrical alterance. This all goes in favor of pericarditis. Now if you see in AVR, this is PR segment. This PR segment will be either elevated or depressed. And along with that, you will have a ST depression with T wave inversion. While in lead 2, lead 3, you will have an ST elevation. You can see here, ST elevation or sometimes ST depression, but it will be with concavity. You can see here, concavity. While this will be after atrial injury, you will have a PQ segment depression. This is P to Q segment, or we call PR segment depression. So once you get that, that will be more commonly seen in a AVR. You will be able to see very classical in AVR. PR segment changes you will be able to see better in AVR than any other lead. And if you see this epicardial ischemia, diffuse epicardial ischemia can have a T wave inversion. But classical changes what you get in a pericarditis, you can see this ST segment elevation with concavity, and PR changes will be seen based in AVR. You can see an ST segment changes with concavity. So there is a J point elevation and multiple leads. Lead 1, lead 2, we can call V3, V2, V3, V4, V5, V6, even in AVF there is multiple leads. And in AVR you get an ST elevation. This is ST elevation. Sorry, PR segment elevation, not ST elevation. Here there is an ST depression. Again you can see here, concavity, nice concavity, multiple leads. This is concave. So when you see such changes, do suspect and look in AVR, ST depression with T wave inversion and the PR segment is elevated. Suspect pericarditis. Multiple lead you will have. And these are the 4 stages, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. I'll show you all those. So in stage 1, ST elevation, PR depression. Stage 2, it becomes normalized. Stage ST elevation becomes normalized. Hello. હા જય સ્વામિનારાયણ. હા ઘરે છું અને અત્યારે હું એક લેક્ચર લઉં છું. નૂતન, so there is an ST elevation in stage 1, while in case of stage 2 there is a normalization of ST elevation. Stage 3 there will be T wave inversion, and stage 4 it will resolve back and T wave will become normal. So these are the different stages. I'll show you a one ECG which will show you all together. Now you can look here. Here there is an ST elevation with concavity upward, T wave is upright. So this is acute stage. As person starts getting a little healing side, we call stage 2, where ST elevation becomes almost isoelectric, T wave has become upright. Stage 3, now you can see that there is a T wave inversion. And in stage 4, ST segment isoelectric, T wave become normal. So stage 2 and stage 4 are on almost same. But in this there is no Q wave appearance. No Q wave. So this is a difference between healed STEMI and pericarditis, stage 4. So along with this, if you get an atrial arrhythmia like supraventricular tachycardia, always this is one of the finding in favor of that. You can see this is a supraventricular tachycardia. There is no P wave. RR interval is less than 10 small square. So the rate is more than 150. QRS complex is narrow. I can't see P wave. So this is supraventricular tachycardia. Right? So here you can see almost SC segment is isoelectric, T wave is upright. So it is either stage 2 or stage 4. And when you see this, this is electrical alterance. Alternate QRS complex is small, normal, small, normal, small. So whenever you get that, this is electrical alterance. It will be in favor of a pericardial effusion or pericardial tamponade. Also, you can see this in a case of a constrictive pericarditis also. Again, you can see a low voltage. So if you come across low voltage, suspect pericardial effusion. Alternate QRS complex small, electrical alterance, cardiac tamponade or massive pericardial effusion. I've already shown this ECG before. Now we go to another ECG tracing. This is how you diagnose hyperkalemia. Peak T wave, flat P wave, prolonged PR. Because of prolonged PR, AV block. Usually because of this, there will be bradycardia and wide bizarre QRS complex, and this we call as a sine wave. I've already shown you before. Again, I'm repeating. You can see the P wave. This PR interval will slowly become prolonged. You can see here. Now this is first degree AV block. And see this tall T wave. Here this base is narrow. It is tall. This is symmetrical. And it is peaked. So this is typical of hyperkalemia. But as you see further, as the hyperkalemia increases, the QRS complex becomes wider, PR interval becomes prolonged, and when it becomes further, now you can see that P wave has disappeared. This QRS complex has become so wider, and from here S wave, the T wave has combined, and this becomes a sine wave. Almost the P wave is absent here. From here, the T wave has almost gone, and it has mixed with a ST segment. So this is called sine wave or sinusoidal wave. This is a severe hyperkalemia, and this can be life-threatening. Now there are few ECGs which we have already shown you before. You can go through your leisure time. You can see here this is a broad QRS. From this S wave, this is S wave, this is J point. You can see it is almost merging with a T wave, and then it becomes like a sine wave. You can see here, this is sine wave. This is a sine wave. You can see this is a broad QRS with tall T wave. These are all signs of, and PR interval is prolonged. These are all signs of hyperkalemia. go through that very clear. This is a sine wave, while there is no P wave. This is ST segment, tall T wave, symmetrical, narrow base, peaked, taller than half of R in favor of hyperkalemia. Again, you can go through tall T wave, narrow, peaked, symmetrical, hyperkalemia. This is broad QRS, tall T wave, narrow, peaked, taller than QRS complex, hyperkalemia. Have a look at that. Now this is what one simple one. I'll go a little faster. Person already had an infarct before. Now if there is a persistent ST segment elevation, even after 4 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 year, there is a small Q wave in lead 2, lead 3 AVF, or there is a deep S wave, QS wave in anterior chest lead, that is V1, V2, V3, and there is an ST elevation, and this person are more likely to develop VT or may have a RBBB morphology. That VT will have a RBBB morphology. Then you will suspect what we call as a ventricular aneurysm. You can see here in lead 1 there is an ST elevation, lead AVL ST elevation. Look in this, there is a deep Q wave ST elevation with T wave inversion still persistent. This is not acute. This person had infarct 1 year back, and now even after 1 year this is persistent. This is classical evidence of ventricular aneurysm, and you can diagnose by echo and by angiography, ventriculography. You can see here ST elevation with T wave inversion persistent even after a long period. So in favor of, more commonly you will see in V1 to V6, more commonly you will see in that. Now we go to the last part, what we call as a Brugada. What is peculiarity of Brugada? I'll directly go to V1, V2 lead. Now if you see in a V1 lead, there is a small R wave, deep S wave, and then there is an upright. So this is almost like bundle branch block, RS, R dash pattern. And from here, there is a chord COVED, chord ST segment, sharply coming down, down sloping with T wave inversion. You can see like this, clear. And this will be seen in V1 and V2, V1, V2. If you see this type of down sloping, can you see this down sloping, very sharp down sloping? This is characteristic of type 1, or we call A variety. And if you see like this curved saddle type, then it is type 2. These are the two varieties of Brugada syndrome. This is hereditary, or we call genetic, and person has got a very high chance of development of VTVF and can have a sudden cardiac death. Try to suspect this. Look at V1, V2. If there is an R wave or RS R dash pattern, and there is a down sloping ST segment with T wave inversion, or there is a saddle type ST segment with upright T wave, do suspect Brugada. This is more common, this is less common. If you identify early, you will be able to pick up this, and then you can advise them for ICT. You can see here classical RS R dash pattern, sharp down sloping. This is type 1, and in type 2 it is curved up, or it is called saddle type. These are the another third variety we call type 2. We don't go into that detail. Now this is another thing which you should keep it in mind. I have already shown this ECG before. A person comes with a severe chest pain, and on ECG you record this ST segment elevation right from V1 till almost V6. Spontaneously on its own the chest pain disappears, or after giving a vasodilator chest pain disappears. You do an investigation like troponin is negative, which is sometimes even negative in an acute stage. It will become very difficult. You repeat an ECG after few minutes or hours, and if this is a ECG, you can see now that ST changes has disappeared. Again you can have a look at the previous one. Spontaneously chest pain disappears, or after giving an anti-anginal drug, the chest pain disappears. And if you get this is variant angina or Prinzmetal angina, or we call vasospastic angina. Do keep it in mind, don't subject this patient to angioplasty. Tracing was taken after 30 minutes and you can see this. The pain was free, asymptomatic now. Do keep it in mind. Variant angina, Prinzmetal angina, or we call vasospastic angina. Once in a while you will see such things, and these are diagnosed. You can see sharp T wave inversion, deep T wave inversion. See this, very deep T wave inversion. Whenever you see this, and if the person has got CNS damage, unconscious, do suspect intracranial hemorrhage or raised intracranial pressure. These are the changes which you can see sometime in a person who has got an intracranial hemorrhage. You can see here, second ECG, deep T wave inversion. Keep it in mind, this is not anterior wall infarct. This is raised intracranial pressure showing you STT changes, multiple leads, lead 1, lead 2, lead 3 also, AVF also. In AVR there is an ST depression. Look in V4, V5, V6, even in V3, extensive, almost like pericarditis, you can see, sometimes misdiagnosed as pericarditis. But person has got a history of head injury, suspect traumatic head injury resulting in intracranial hemorrhage, or there is a raised intracranial pressure. Now, this is another ECG which you must keep it in mind. If any time in an ECG leads, can you see this spike? This is pacemaker spike. Now here there are two spikes, 1 and 2. 1 and 2. Can you see clearly? And following a second spike, if there is a broad QRS complex, and there are two spikes before, this is sequential pacing. And if you see only one spike, no, this spike is absent, and there is a broad QRS. This is ventricular pacing, or we call ventricular pace rhythm. And whenever you see this, you will have an associated broad QRS complex, ST segment in opposite direction, misdiagnosed as MI. Always keep it in mind. This is another what we call as a Takotsubo. Whenever there is an acute stress, like suddenly someone tells you that you have got a COVID-19, or you have failed in exam, or you have lost lot of money in your what we call as market, person can develop because of release of lot of catecholamines, sudden appearance of a Q wave with ST segment elevation. This is ST segment elevation, and it will be a widespread, not in a contiguous leads. Do keep it in mind, it can be Takotsubo. And in Takotsubo, good number of time, the person will develop a stunt myocardium, which we will call Takotsubo cardiomyopathy. Now there is another condition which also produces STT changes, that is in acute pulmonary embolism. We call S1Q3T3, that is you get S wave in lead 1, Q wave in lead 3, and T wave inversion in lead 3. This can be misdiagnosed as an inferior valve. But whenever you get S1Q3T3 with RBBB pattern, and there is a tall T wave in V1 to V4, do suspect posterior wall or we call acute pulmonary embolism. And if a person has got cardiogenic shock associated with ST elevation in V1, AVR and lead 3, suspect acute MI. ST depression in V4, V5, V6, always keep it in mind, it can be STEMI. This is typical. You can see S wave in V1, in lead 1, and in lead 3, if you see a deep Q wave and T wave inversion, that is why it is called Q3, T3. this can be in acute pulmonary embolism, and there will be a right axis deviation. If you look at lead 1 and lead 3, it is a right axis deviation, and along with this you might have other changes like right bundle branch block pattern also. So terminal R wave in AVR will be little bit in favor. Always try to rule out true posterior wall MI in this condition also, and there will be T wave inversion in V1, V2 you can have in an acute pulmonary embolism, which are sometimes misdiagnosed as MI. Keep it in mind. This is right bundle branch block appearance. This will be again misdiagnosed as ischemic heart disease, and here it will be S1, Q3, T3 pattern. If you get that, it is in favor of pulmonary embolism. So always look in lead 1, T wave inversion. See this deep T wave inversion. Now whenever you get this is more in favor of an acute coronary syndrome rather than pulmonary embolism. Now we go to another part we call as a hypothermia. In hypothermia, there will be an Osborn wave at J point. PR interval will be prolonged. QT interval is prolonged. There is a severing. Because of severing, you will get a zigzag lines. You can have a ventricular ectopy, and person can develop VTVF and can go into asystole. If you look here, there is a J point elevation with the Osborn wave. It will be better seen in the next ECG. I'll show you a next ECG. Can you see this J point elevation and this upstroke? This is called Osborn wave. If you see such, then 100% in favor. Along with that, you will have a bradycardia, ventricular premature beats, ventricular tachycardia, ventricular fibrillation, QT prolongation, etc. This is typical of hypothermia. This is, you can see J point elevation with typical Osborn wave. J point elevation with Osborn wave. Characteristic. Is it okay? Typical Osborn wave. Typical. And such Osborn wave you can get in hypothermia, once in a while in hypercalcemia, certain medication, raised intracranial pressure, and it can be once in a while, rare, normal variant. Typical Osborn wave. And you can see this is a severing effect. Typical severing effect. And you can see an Osborn wave here. Very classical. Once you see this Osborn wave, you can never forget in your lifetime. This is characteristic of a hypothermia. You may see once in a while a patient of hypothermia. Clear? Osborn wave. Nice, very nice Osborn wave. Very, very characteristic Osborn wave. Another condition which is sometimes misdiagnosed as STEMI or ischemic heart disease is Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome. There is a short PR, QRS is blocked, delta wave, and you will have a secondary STT changes in the form of a downsloping with inverted T wave in opposite direction. Delta wave, short PR, T wave, ST changes may be there with T wave inversion. So characteristic. There is another condition we call ARVD, arrhythmogenic right ventricular dysplasia. You can see P wave. This will be seen in V1, V2, V3, maximum V3. This is R wave, S wave. At the end of the S wave, you will have this type of a wave. This is called epsilon wave. Whenever at the end of the S wave, you get such type of wave, it is in favor of ARVD. And you will see in V1. Can you see this? Very clear. V1 and maybe in V2. Characteristic in V1, V2. This person, genetic, he has got a right ventricular abnormalities. He can end up with VTVF, and sometimes person can have a sudden cardiac death. If you diagnose them early, again you can see this. It is called prolonged S wave with upstroke. In this, if you advise them for ICD, life can be saved. So try to look at that. Some other condition where you can have an abnormal STT changes, like in toxicology, like we call as a certain drugs poisoning, ischemic heart disease, electrolyte imbalance, dextrocardia, lead reversal, artifacts, and pacing spike. Look at all this. Some of those we have already discussed. These are some of the variant. You can go at your leisure time. We have already done before. Hypokalemia, hyperkalemia, hypocalcemia, hypercalcemia, digitalis toxicity, etc. Try to look at those. And these are another variants. You can have a look at those particular variants. This is variant angina, we have already mentioned. Early repolarization, pericarditis, we have already mentioned. So at your leisure time, you can go through those. So always we call them as a killer ECG. So try to look in lead 2 and look in V1 to V3. This we have shown you before. This is a repetition. Only we have not mentioned regarding hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy, in which you will have a LVH criteria, STT changes, Bunder-Branch block pattern, and appearance of a Q wave in V5, V6. If you get that, suspect hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy. We have already done all other things in a previous ECGs. These are what we call as a look at all these conditions: ARVD, long QT, short QT, hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy, WPW syndrome, etc. Here I end my lecture. I think this will be very helpful to you in a future practice. Always keep it in mind, there are some ECG which shows you a minor STT changes which can be STEMI equivalents, and there can be STT changes which can be mimics which are non-ischemic, and don't subject them to a treatment of STEMI. So keep that thing in mind.